All right, good day and welcome to another episode of Father's Fire. My name's Jody Sedrick, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And if you can't tell by my sweatshirt, those of you watching on YouTube, snow season is around the corner. So do you even lift? It's got a ski lift. So you know we're going to be spending some time on a different form of water. So in the summer, we're wake surfing, and then we go to surfing. I mean, not surfing, skiing. And gosh, man, I can't even think of the stupid name. I'll think of it anyway. But anyway, super glad to have you guys. Just want to remind you that I'm part of the Speak Fire family. Plus, I am an ESA certified coach. So if you're looking to bring your message to those that you're feeling inspired to call and serve, I got you. So anyway, I'm super excited. My boy, my friend, my colleague. I mean, he calls me Uncle Jody, but I don't know where I deserve that. But Wil Fossett, the Millennial Mentor, is with me this today. So
Hey,
good afternoon, good morning. How are you?
I'm good. Look, I'm good, Uncle Jody. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. So yeah, every time I wear this sweatshirt, I think of my son because this was the sweatshirt that he was on the ski team, and I would go up every weekend and help with the gates, and
Ah,
then we would ski after. So I love this sweatshirt. In fact, it's got a hashtag on the back, Cedric Dad. So yeah, you gotta do all those fun things with your kids.
absolutely.
Um, but the reason, so I gotta backtrack because I mean it's easy to talk about the fun of being a dad, but about 2 weeks ago, you posted on your social media, Facebook and Instagram, something that's not so fun as a dad.
Yeah, yeah. So about 2 weeks ago, my daughter, right? My daughter was a preemie. She was literally born 4 pounds 4 ounces, right? Super
Ooh,
small. Yeah. So we're always cautious about what she does, where she's at, how she interacts, all that type of stuff. And come to find out, she was sick for a couple of days. And me being dad, right? I'm like, oh, she'll be all right. She'll get over it. But it didn't get any better. So this is probably the third day now. She's coughing and walking around the house, and she just looks different. I'm like, we got to go to the hospital. So we go to the hospital, and they run all these tests on her. Come and find out, my daughter has RSV, which is a
mm,
really bad upper respiratory thing for children. And me as a dad, I'm just sitting there like, come on, man, not my kid, not my kid. So we in the ER, we in the emergency for about 4 or 5 hours. Now we got there probably about 9 o'clock, didn't leave till almost 4 o'clock in the morning. So yeah.
yeah, it is not fun. Our second son, Christian, ended up getting RSV, and I remember his lips turned all blue, and I mean he was not breathing. And Judy's like, "We got to go to the doctor now," and he ended up, in the hospital for like 7 days. And I think this is an aspect of fatherhood that a lot of times we don't talk about is what happens when your kid gets sick? Because I think a lot of times what happens, or the assumption is that the wife, is taking care of and nurturing and helping that kid get back to health. But a lot of times, like you and me, we are all in.
Yeah.
All right. And so being at the hospital, and obviously when they go to the hospital, that's an extreme. But I think a lot of times, even at home, when they're tossing their cookies, you're sitting there with your butt on the bathtub and they're just puking everything out, and you're like trying to console them, and the smell's getting to you, and you're like, oh man, one, you're going, oh, how am I going to get through this? But two, how do I help my kid through this? I mean, it's a crazy thing as a dad to be taking care of a sick kid.
It is. And here's the one thing that I guess to say I enjoyed about it, as crazy as that sounds. I know that I'm secure for my child. My child knows at the end of the day, oh my God, I don't feel good. I'm going to climb in my dad's lap, right? Daddy's gonna hold me. He gonna rub my back. And here's the my daughter had such an attitude. Mind you, she's 2, about to be 3, but she had such an attitude. She didn't want you to wipe her nose. She didn't want you really to touch her. She didn't want to go to the bathroom. She just wanted to like breathe and exist. But I'm like, hey, let daddy take care of you. I'm like, let me wipe your nose. Now, if my wife tried to do it, she'll be like, no, don't. She'll start screaming, yelling. But dad is security. So I just held her in my arms. All right, we're going to sit here. Let daddy wipe your nose. But it's that, and not to take credit away from my wife, because my wife is the one who does all of those nurturing things, right? But it's that that era of superiority where I get to be like, I'm dad, right? I'm dad. At the end of the day, she's gonna come to me, Dad, can you wipe my nose? Oh my God, I sneezed, right? And so it ultimately became my call. Like, okay, do we wait until the morning? Do we take her now? Let's take her now, right? Because my wife is looking at me saying, you know, like I know my wife. My wife is already on 10. She's like, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Me, I'm like, let's play it out. Let's see what happens. Because we know, all right, we've done everything we can do, right? And that becomes the part that we have to exhaust all the resources that we have at our disposal, at our disposal. And we were out of it, right? Breathing treatments, medicine, cough syrup, everything. Nothing we did worked. So then it's like, all right, we got to go to the doctor and get this figured out.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think about how many times my kids were sick, and sometimes the kids want mom, sometimes they want dad, and you have to be okay with that. But I think a lot of times where some men struggle is especially like when their wife is nursing a baby or they're young, they're like, that's the wife's job. She'll go get it. Instead of, I know, especially when we had newborns and the baby would get up, I would always get up with Judy. And I'm like, all right, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to, change the diaper while you're getting ready to nurse or whatever? And I think taking a tag team approach to a lot of these things is really important when you have a spouse in the house. Obviously, if you're a single dad or single mom, you're facing that all alone, and it's tough. And I remember sometimes, you talk about, your daughter preferring you to blow the nose. I remember sometimes the kids would prefer me. And I remember this one time, my daughter just had a fever, right? And she just wanted to be held. And I'm sitting in that chair and she just baking on my chest. And I'm like, I was like, how do I get some breath here, right? But you just soldier up, you man up, and you just hold that baby and comfort them until you get to the point where they're asleep and you can try to put them down. But inevitably, when you try to put them down, they wake up
Yeah.
and you're like, oh man, all right, at least I got a little bit of air on my body.
Yeah. Yeah, that point you made about the tag team, right? And so this is where I have an opportunity to be transparent. My daughter was a complete learning experience for me. So my wife will tell you all the way up until she had the baby, I was probably right the greatest husband. I earned a bunch of husband points, right? When she had the baby, I was so lost, Jody, and I'm just like, I don't know. So she would get up, like you said, to nurse or feed her, and I'm just like, I'm out of it. I don't know what else to do. But like you said, that tag team of, all right, how about this? Let me get up with you and I'll just, do you want me to go warm the bottle up? Do you want me to help you to the bathroom? It's that tag, that will earn you a lot of husband points. And I had to learn that one the hard way. So fellas, if you listening, tag team it. If she gets, you get up. If she moves, you move.
And that's important because I think a lot of women feel like they're carrying everything on their shoulders. And if you're at least getting up, and though you can't nurse or you can't do some of the mama things that they can do, if you're just showing that you're present, that you care, not only about the kid, but also her, it goes a huge, I mean, you talk about those husband points.
Yeah.
And that's very significant in your relationship as a couple, but it also, I think, binds you to those kids. it sears your heart to the kids, and the kids know that. You know what? It's Dad's turn. Let me go crawl on him and breathe all over him with my mucusy breath, and sneeze on him,
Yeah,
and let Mom have a break. And I think it's important that we, as husbands and fathers, recognize that we need to shoulder the load too,
yeah.
and give our wife a break. I mean, sometimes, we got to man up, and we get to bottle feed them. We get to nurture them, and they get to actually leave the house. So don't panic if she leaves the house. You can do it.
Look, I'll even take it a step further. Hey, dads, if you're listening or you watching this, kick your wife out the house, and I mean this in the best possible way. Take the initiative on yourself and say, "Hey, babe, I'm gonna do it. Right? I'm gonna take the kids. You go. We'll be here when you get here. We're not gonna burn down the house. Kick your wife out the house. Just say, hey, look, come back whenever you feel like it. And whatever you gotta do in that time while she's gone, just survive, okay? If you got 1, 2, or 5 kids, just make sure y'all survive. Whether that's buying pizza, you take them to the park, make sure you survive so that way she can come back and be relaxed, right? Because there's going to be some anxiety and anxiousness to her. Because especially if you've never done it before. But fellas, if you can, kick your wife out the house, and you'll thank me later.
I love that, because I think a lot of times we as men, and we fall to the wife's insistence that she's going to take care of the kids. No, I got it, babe. I got it. I know you've been working, instead of going, you need to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Not because I don't love you, I don't want you around, but you mentally and emotionally and spiritually need a break, sweetheart. And you can have the confidence that I got your back, that I got the kids. The house isn't going to burn down. It may be a little bit more disheveled when you get home,
Look,
but
it's
everything's
probably a
going to
bigger
be
mess.
safe. That's all that matters,
Right.
right? And I think a lot of times we get so caught up on the disheveled state of our home, instead of worrying about, is our relationship disheveled?
Mm.
Is our relationship with our kids on point? Are we present? Are we present for our wife? And even sometimes allowing her the space to escape so that we can be present and take over just for her and the kids.
Yeah. As you're saying that, I'm thinking about just like an analogy of like a home, right? If the home may be pristine and look amazing on the outside, right? But on the inside, it's toys everywhere. It's food in the kitchen, dishes in the sink. But that's a home that's been lived in. That's a home that's carrying, love. That's a home that's continuously evolving. The outside, yeah. We not gonna show you the inside of the house, right? It's like when you got guests coming over on short notice and you got multiple kids, you're like, okay, we got to clean this up, we got to vacuum here. Okay, look, it's presentable to you, but we live here, right? This is every day for us. This is our comfort zone for our children. So don't get so caught up in what it looks like. Be more caught up in what it feels like. Does your home feel like home? Does your home feel like love? Does your home feel like appreciation? Or does it just feel like, oh, I walk in the door and this is where I'm supposed to be?
Man, Will is dropping gold today, man. I'm telling you, focus on how your home feels.
Yeah.
I love that feeling as well as the statement. I remember a couple of episodes ago, earlier in the summer, I was visiting with my good friend. He owns HCL Detailing. And he was saying, I always felt safe at home. And I wanted to create that same feeling for my kids.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's so important. We as fathers can really set the tone of the feeling for our home in the way that we show up, not only for our kids, but also for our wives.
Yeah.
And that tag team can really be impactful, especially when your kids can see that dad is helping mom and vice versa, and that they as a team are doing everything they can to create this beautiful, strong, loving environment in the home where both are apart. And I think too, as I say that, I think about so many single dads that have not, because of the separation, the anger, the animosity between them, they're not having those experiences, and yet they're yearning to have it. They're doing everything they can to break open the door of a broken heart and a broken relationship to still connect with their kids. And so I think, for you single dads that are really struggling, is when you have that opportunity, that you take advantage of it,
Mm.
that you're present, that you're engaged, that you're helping your kids in any way that makes sense and nurturing, when you have that opportunity. So just because you're not necessarily in the home all the time doesn't mean that you can't call up and say, "Hey baby, how you feeling? I hear you're sick. Right here, mom took you to the hospital. What can I do? Can I bring you an ice cream? Or can I, bring you some soup or whatever, and drop it at the door or whatever,
Hmm.
right? Do what you can to be involved, even in that strained relationship. And I get it. Some are really ugly and you get into some technicalities, but if you can, do whatever you can to be present.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Because while you're saying that, my thought goes to scars, right? So a lot of times throughout our childhood, we go through these experiences, let's say it that way, right? And we remember those things as adults. Like, I guarantee you, if you go and ask any one of your kids right now, hey, what was the one thing that you felt was the worst thing that happened in your childhood? And they'll tell you, whether it's they got a whooping, whether it's they fell off their bike, because that memory is almost scarred in their brain, right? And so what happens, what I've seen is we remember those scars. We don't forget them. And now as we're adults and we're parents, right? Where you're a father, what you want to do, if I could give any advice, is make sure you aren't creating those scars on your children. Now,
That you are or aren't.
that you are not creating those
Right.
scars on your children. You don't want to create those scars. You want to be the cocoa butter. You want to be the salve. You want to be the things that help them heal, right? Because what happens as they get older, now every time that they look at that scar, or every time they look down at their arm, or every time they had that flashback or that trigger moment, oh my God, I remember when my dad hurt me because he said this. I remember my dad didn't show up because he said he was coming. He did, right? That our children are going to remember those moments. So now what I would say to any father, if you're listening, look, you want to be the healer. You want to be the comforter. You want to be the one that brings them the joy, not the one that hurts them, not the one that gives them scars, because they are going to remember that for the rest of their life. I talked to my sister, my flesh and blood sister. She told me, I remember every time from childhood to adulthood that I was embarrassed. Every time somebody made me feel small.
Mm.
Every time that somebody made me feel like I said or did the wrong thing. People don't forget how you make them feel.
Yeah, I really love that statement. People never forget how you make them feel. They will forget in some circumstances what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel, both good and bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so we need to really focus, like you said at the beginning, of creating a feeling of home, creating a feeling of dad's got your back, that there's a safe space for not only me and you, but also me and your mama. Right. And we need to be able to make sure that we're nurturing that. I have a question for you because I think a lot of times this gets glossed over.
Okay.
When your baby was sick and going to the hospital, how did you feel?
Helpless. That is the first word. That's that first word off the tongue. Helpless. Because so me as a high D, right? I'm super controlling. I like to control the environment. I like to make sure everything is going the way that I want it to go. Like I'm gonna push it, right? I'm gonna push it to make sure that it's the way I want it to go. Completely helpless in this situation because I've done every single thing. When I got to the doctor's office with my daughter, they said, "Oh, what about giving her a breathing treatment?" I did that. Oh, what about sitting her in the bathroom with a hot shower or a hot bath so she can get the steam? I did that. Oh, what about trying to see if you can flush her nasal cavity? I did that. Everything that they brought up, Jody, that we could do at home, I had already done it. So now I get there and I'm feeling hopeless. And they had to go above and beyond what I've already done. They had to give her a higher dosage of steroid, a higher dosage of medication than what's available over the counter at home. So now I'm like, okay, you got to do something extra. You got to do something for my child that I can't do. Helpless.
Helpless. And I think a lot of times we as fathers, especially when our kids are sick or they're feeling like they're cornered and they're wrestling with a problem, and we can only support. So, how do you deal with that feeling of helplessness? Because I'm like you, if I'm trying to control it, if I see a situation, I'm trying to fix it, I'm trying to navigate through it, I'm trying to be the master of my destiny. But in some situations, you have to step back and you just have to dance with the current.
Ooh.
You
Yeah.
just have to let it flow and you have to allow yourself and your family to be taken there.
Mm.
And that's hard, especially when you're used to being the captain, you're used to being the driver. So, how do you overcome, how do you deal with that feeling of helplessness when it's really now out of your hands and you just have to have trust and you have to have faith and you have to have reliance that
Mm.
somebody else has the tools and the know-how and the smarts to do something that you can't. And sometimes that is just having trust in God that He's taken you and your family where you need to go.
Yeah. Yep. I think that right there becomes the key point, right? Because my faith and my belief in God is this not gonna go wrong. We're gonna figure this out. It's gonna be okay, right? Because I've done all the things that I can do. So here's one of the things that I always use. I'm a pray like God is gonna handle it, but I'm also work like it's dependent on me, right? I'm gonna do everything that I'm supposed to do, but I'm still gonna pray and believe that God is gonna handle it. So I did everything I was supposed to do as a dad, as a human, as a father. I did everything. So now I have to pray and believe that, all right, God, you gonna make sure my daughter's okay. God, you gonna make sure my family's straight. And now I'm gonna work from there. And once that got handled, I can breathe. But it's having that faith, having that base of faith, I believe is a pivotal thing. And some people, I won't say a lot, I won't say most, some people don't have that. And I would definitely suggest, find you a faith base, something to believe in that's bigger than you. Find you something that you believe in that's bigger than you.
As I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about how many times we as dads feel helpless. I think it's more often than we allow people to understand, right? A lot of times we put up the wall and we're shielding them from our own insecurities, our own feelings of helplessness. But in the back of our head, we're going, all right, how do I wrestle with this? How do I solve it? And it takes, I think a lot of times we gloss over, we make light of how difficult, how painstakingly challenging having faith can be. Because you're standing in the midst of your hurricane, in the midst of your turmoil, and you're going, I can't control everything. I'm dad. I'm supposed to be able to solve this. I'm dad. I'm supposed to come to the rescue. I'm supposed to put on my super cape and come in and make everything better for my kids and my wife. And sometimes the situation requires you to step back and trust and have faith. And having that faith and that trust can be really, really difficult. But as you dig in deep to your faith and your trust in others around you and in God, somehow through the darkness comes light. Through the darkness comes hope.
Yeah.
The question is can you endure the valley?
Mm,
Because the valley is preparing you for the climb to the next mountain that you're trying to achieve.
mm. Wow. Wow. So I'll turn the question in. How do we make it through those valleys? What advice do you have? So you as a dad who has more experience than me to a new dad, how do I make it through those valleys when I feel like I don't know what I'm doing? So prime example, I'm three years
Good question.
I'm 3 years in, Jody, right? Been married and have a 3-year-old daughter. 3 years in. I know you got 20 plus years on me, experience, right? So, as a new dad coming to you, how do I make it through when I feel like, oh man, we're making money, the house is good, but something's still off, or she's mad at me because I didn't wash the dishes this way, or we want to go on vacation. I want to go on vacation and she doesn't. Like, how do I make it through those valleys so we can get back to the mountaintops? So, like we talked about before, the effort, right, of when you were dating and courting her and how you went out your way to make her happy and all those things. I want to get back to those peaks. I want to get back to the mountaintops. But right now, if I'm in the valley, how do I get out of there?
That question is very profound. So, number one, you got to have gratitude.
Mm.
Hands down, you got to have gratitude for every little thing. When Judy and I, a couple years ago, we were going through a really, really dark moment in our life, in our family's life. And she suggested, she goes, we need to keep a gratitude journal. You keep yours, I'll keep mine. And every day I wrote at least 3 things that I was grateful for. And it was amazing because as I took that moment to ponder and to reflect on my day, there are so many people and moments that were impactful on my life that if I wouldn't have taken the time to go, what am I grateful for? I would have missed them. And it's fun to go back to that gratitude journal, especially during that dark, dark valley, and see what I was grateful for, who I was grateful for, who impacted my life in ways that are still rippling across my life today. So number one, be grateful.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, you got to dig into each other. You got to dig into each other. Because it's easy to have a relationship when everything's going great. I mean, it's easy. In fact, last week when I was talking to Bobby Bernard in the episode last week, he said we just gave up.
Mm.
And I think a lot of times we get into the valley and we just throw in the towel instead of digging into each other, right? And digging into our relationship and just going, sweetheart, I don't know how we're going to get through this, but I got you. I got the kids. I'm digging into you. So just walk with me. Let's walk together. And some days you may have to do that. It's funny because sometimes my wife she goes, well, you never let me hold you. I go, no, I let you hold me all the time. It's just, I hold you with your arm in my shoulders. That's how you hold me as well. Whereas you like to nuzzle up and get all, where I got my arms around you, it's the same for me as it is for you. I'm just on the different side of the hug. So
Right.
let's dig in and recognize that you're giving me strength by being there for me.
Going back to that presence, right?
Just being present. And sometimes it's amazing what just holding each other can do for a relationship.
Mm.
Just holding each other and go, babe, I don't have the answer, but let's just be together. Let's be present. Let's find some things that we're grateful for. And the number one thing I'm grateful for is you.
Nice.
Babe, I'm grateful for you because we're walking this together. Right. And I think number three is, you just got to tap into your faith.
Mm.
And that's hard. Like I said, it's hard, right? You have to dig in and you have to be willing to get on your knees and then get up and go to work, especially when you don't have the answers. I remember very distinctly 3 years into our business. We were facing a really significant challenge. We had a customer that was, leaving us with a bill of $137.12. Yeah, I know the number, $137,000.12, right? Because she was questioning the bill. We were going to litigation. We ended up going to arbitration. And I remember being in this bedroom, crawling out of bed. I had not slept. I fell to my knees and I just started pouring my heart out to God. I'm like, I don't know what to do. And I literally reached to the point where I collapsed on the floor in tears, crying in the fetal position, going, I don't know what to do. And then once I got it all out of my system, I was able to go, all right, you got it out. You got your anger, your frustration, your sorrow out and put it on God's table. Now you get up and get to work.
Mm.
And I rose from my bed with peace. And while I didn't have any new answers, I just knew that if I could tackle one problem at a time, that eventually those doors would open and I would see little by little. It's kind of like, I heard a talk years ago by Elder David Bednar, and he talked about revelation. Inspiration is like a sunrise. A lot of times we're seeking an answer to a question or problem in our family or within ourselves or our relationship, and we're wanting the heavens to open and the angels to come down and, oh, here's the answer. But the way it usually happens is like a sunrise.
Mm.
No, little by little, you start to see before the sun even comes above the horizon. Get up 30 minutes before sunrise.
Yeah.
And you will see how little by little the room becomes clear. Until that point when the sun totally comes above the horizon, you can see everything in its full glory. And I think a lot of times as we're walking through the valleys, that's what God's asking us to do, to have faith and trust that little by little, as we work and as we move forward, He's going to give us the light that we need to move to the next step.
Wow. Yeah, I
So
love that.
trust the valley.
I love that last part about the faith because I'm sitting here and you know me as a superhero person, I'm like, it's easier for people to believe in superheroes than it is to have faith, right? It's easier to believe in superheroes, and that sounds crazy, than it is to have faith because the superheroes are predictable. The superheroes are visible. The superheroes are constant and continuous, right? I know Superman's going to come flying with his cape. He's going to come down. He's going to make his pose, right? I know Batman's going to throw the Batarang out of nowhere and hit somebody in the face, and then he's going to beat somebody up, right? They're predictable. But with our faith and having faith, it's not always that predictable. It's always going to be in that last moment or the moment before we expect it. Or you don't know when. You just have to believe, right? And so now that's where it changes, where the superhero, yes, is predictable. But what are you willing to believe about yourself? You can count on a superhero, but can you count and believe in yourself? Because just listening to you, I'm like, everything you just said right now goes back into self, right? It's being present. It's having the belief that I'm going to, or we're going to get through this. And then just having that drive and determination that we all have as men. We are, categorized by our ability to lead, by our ability to drive, by our ability to facilitate and create, right? So now do the same thing, but like you said, on a smaller scale, step by step, like a sunrise. Every day I'm going to get up and I'm going to get closer to this step, get closer to this dream. If your dream is bringing your family back together and you're a single parent, every day be working towards that goal. Every day be working towards making sure your children are healed. Every day working towards repairing the relationship with your baby mama or your ex-wife or whoever it is. Not even if it means that y'all gonna be together, but so you all can be a cohesive and fundamentally sound family. Because that's what you are at the end of the day. You're still family.
That's it. Absolutely. And I love that, man. It really is, it is a day by day, moment by moment experience. And I think a lot of times we're pushing so hard for what we would like that we're missing the moment. And the moment, even though sometimes those moments are dark, it's in those dark moments when we really lean into each other that true love is created.
Yeah.
So tap into yourself, even in those sick moments, in those dark moments, in those troubling moments, those moments of self-doubt. Because the beauty of it is as we lean into our family, as we lean into our faith, God will sear our hearts together and make us one. And that's really the true purpose of a family, is to become one in heart and in spirit and in purpose.
I love it.
I want to thank you so much for joining me. I need to race off to the DMV with my daughter because she bought her first car, and we are actually doing the license registration and the taxes. You talk about fun and education.
Right.
But I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to visit me. Guys, and I'm kind of rushing here, so I apologize. Make sure you go check Wil Fossett. He's on Facebook. He's on Instagram. He's known as the Millennial Mentor. He works with teens and families. And I'm telling you, the guy's got a heart of gold. So go check him out. Plus, he's a big superhero fan. So how can you not love him?
I am. Thank you again, Jody, man. I love speaking with you. I love sitting down with you, man.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And thanks for sharing your sad story with your daughter, because there's gold lessons in what we shared today. So thank you so much. Thank you guys for tapping in. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Please also go out to jodysedrick.com. Check out my new book, Learn to Dance with the Currents of Life When You Feel Like Drowning. So it goes perfectly with today. So, and we will check you guys same time, same bat channel, just next week.
Peace.
Thanks, brother.
For sure. Anytime.